Hello?
This is a Casey Stratton podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Casey Stratton podcast. It is Thursday, April 7th, 2011. And I'm coming to you live from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And suddenly, I'm a little bit lighter. It was a little dark when I was checking everything. Maybe when you start recording, it does something special. I have no idea. Anyway, thanks for joining me again on the Casey Stratton podcast. Now coming to you live on Ustream. If you watch, it will be 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. As of now, it will be Eastern Standard Time when we flip back. Or actually ahead in the fall. So, yes, Thursday nights at 6:30. 5:30 Central. I will be podcasting. It's also GMT -4 this time of year and GMT -5 the rest of the year. So that's going to be the thing. If you come and watch live then on Ustream, then I will stick around after the recording portion is over and talk to you, answer some questions for a little bit. There's a little chat window that is over here that you can use to chat with me, as Tina and Naomi are doing now. So, current events, what's going on in the world? Well, Japan. It seems to be, this is the third week in a row, and, oh, James is here. And, hello, welcome again. Sorry, I'm going to learn to disregard the chat better. I'm going to get better at this, I swear. I'm not used to it yet. We're back to Japan again. The current events, it's 3 weeks in a row. Nothing much changes, except that today they had a 7.4 aftershock, which was the second largest aftershock since the quake, the first largest being the day of the quake. So there was a tsunami. There was a tsunami warning issued, but thank goodness it was taken back. It was canceled, because there was no tsunami, but still another 7.4 earthquake is a humongous earthquake. So, I mean, even calling it an aftershock is kind of like it's kind of the cop-out, you know? So that's no good. Stuff in the Middle East and Africa, still just a mess. Everything in Libya, still a mess. We've got NATO forces now supposedly in control, although everyone's laughing because who controls NATO? The United States. So we're still pretty much in control, whether we say we are or not. And of course, today I just read a tweet of someone saying that one of the army generals or something saying that the United States may consider sending in ground troops. So, you know, we will not be sending in ground troops, except maybe we'll be sending in ground troops. We'll see. Ivory Coast. A lot of people haven't heard what's going on in Ivory Coast. Their election was 6 years late. The president, if you want to call him a president, was supposed to be going through an election in 2005 and kept postponing that election. And then they finally had the election 6 months ago, and he lost, but he won't leave. So now they're having a huge, pretty much civil war, military confrontation in Ivory Coast because the president will not leave, so the new president can come in. Not good, not cute, and not getting a lot of national attention here in the United States. So I thought I'd mention it. Also, here in the United States, we've been having a lot of drama going on with the state governments, governors, Republican governors coming in a lot of states like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Ohio, Florida, and passing some pretty dramatic legislation, kind of busting up unions, claiming budgetary concerns, although I don't think that's the case. I think there's a lot of corporate money in politics, and corporations would love it if they didn't have to deal with unions. And to me, that's how I'm seeing it. But anyway, what's interesting about it is that there was an election in Wisconsin. It was the first election since the anti-union legislation passed, the budget, fixing the budget bill, if you want to call it that. And it was a state Supreme Court election, which let's not even go there, that judges are elected in a lot of states, because how are you going to be impartial when you're going through whatever. So Although, you know, if you have political people appoint them, then they're still going to have an affiliation. But I don't know. Electing judges is kind of weird to me. But it was a state Supreme Court race, and just before all of this went down, the current incumbent, the judge that is in the seat now, who is a Republican, he had a 55%. He got 55% of the primary. The next person down, Jean Kloppenberg, she got 25% of the vote in the primary. Then somebody else got 17, and I think somebody else got 5 or something like that. So expectations were not anything except that this guy was going to win, because he's already in the seat. Judges don't tend to be voted out very easily, and you know, an incumbent always has an advantage, almost always. Anyway, what's interesting about this election is that it did rile up people so much that it's within like 200 votes at this point, looking like actually the liberal judge is going to win. So that's quite a spread to cover in a short period of time. So it definitely shows that people are paying attention and getting out to the polls, which, you know, that if nothing else, it's good for people to be motivated and get out and vote. So that's crazy. Also, for those who follow, I'm sorry for you guys who aren't U.S. peeps. I have to unsleep my screen. Checklist. I'm going to make a checklist one of these days. I'm going to remember to turn off the sleeping monitor function of my computer. Anyway, in the United States, we have right now a Republican-controlled House of Representatives and a democratically controlled Senate. Of course, we have a Democratic president right now. My brain is scattered. And they can't seem to agree, shocking as that is, on the budget. So looks like we might be heading into a government shutdown starting on Saturday, which actually could be a problem because soldiers don't get paid, unemployment benefits don't go out, things like that. Could be a problem. You know, there's a lot of machinery involved there. You shut it down, a lot of people who are counting on stuff don't get those things. Of course, somehow it's all set up just so perfectly so that the people in Congress still get paid. I want a job where I get paid not to work. That's my goal. Actually, it's not my goal at all. I'm not that kind of person. So we're going to see what happens with that. I've got my eye on it, the current events. And of course, it's American Idol season. I'm totally kidding. I don't give a rat's ass about that. So, yeah. What else am I going to say? I almost went to play the piano, and I'm not doing that yet. I'm a little tired today. I haven't been sleeping that much. So I'm going through another little phase. I think I'm either stressed or busy or both probably. Inspired. I don't know. I've been working late into the night and such. So it's cool. I went and saw my cousin's baby today. I'll tell you about that. His name is Connor, and he was very, very cute. So that was cool. He's 2 months old, so oops, naughty that I hadn't seen him yet. So, yeah, question time. That's what it is. I have a list. Not a checklist, but a list of what I'm going to talk about. My first question this week comes from Oren in Australia, and wanted to know which did I think would be worse, not being able to sing or no longer being able to play the piano. And wow, I mean, either thing would be completely devastating, but I think losing the ability to sing would probably be worse to me. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm very expressive when I sing. So I think I would really miss that. I think that would be hard for me. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would hate to not be able to play the piano too. That would be terrible. But I always think about, this makes me think about Beethoven and how he went deaf and he knew he was going deaf. I can't imagine being a composer of music and knowing that you're going to lose your hearing. Of course, he continued to write music, which I can totally understand because I think I could too. But I can't imagine what it would be like to never hear anything you wrote again. Oof, I don't like to think about it, and especially knowing it's coming. Yikes. I'm still though not one of those people that would say life is not worth living if I can't make music, because I don't necessarily think that's true. I think I'd live, but I would be unhappy for quite some time. So thank you, Oren, for that question. Second question from Naomi again this week. She was telling me about a friend of hers that said that he moved somewhere, probably I would assume from one city to another, and lost his creativity seemed to have gone with him. So she was asking if I've ever had any long dry spells without creativity and what kind of bounced me out of that, what snapped me out of it. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that geographically I've had a creativity problem. I tend to find moving actually to be very inspiring. So when I first move somewhere, I tend to get really into writing. I really like change. I enjoy that feeling of like a clean slate when you move to a new city. If you've done that, I don't know how many of you have done that, but if you have, you know, so if you do, especially if you haven't spent a lot of time in that city, it can be very interesting. I moved to LA. When I did move to LA, I was 18 and I had only been in Los Angeles for about 8 hours ever in my lifetime. So, when I moved there completely, not really knowing anything at all. And so that was cool. And then I moved to Chicago, and I had only been to Chicago a few times in high school. So it was interesting to move from LA to Chicago and kind of start again. And when I moved to New York, I had been to New York a few times, but and in both times for 5 days or 6 days. But so I was the most familiar actually with New York by the time I moved there, which I'm actually glad because New York's kind of a beast. So I don't know if I would want to just like dive into that. But anyway, creativity doesn't tend to move with me in that capacity. But I do go through long, sometimes periods of I don't know if I would call it writer's block per se. For me, it's more of an even just a lack of energy. Like it's a lack of inspiration more than it's a lack of creativity. Like I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like writing, or I will sometimes get writer's block where I start to write and it doesn't work and it's not good. And I've talked about this in the past, but when that but this is something I like to talk about it actually quite a bit because I think a lot of writers and creative people, it doesn't have to be writing, are worried about it. And I'm certainly no authority, but it's my podcast, so you're going to hear my opinion right now. I'm just saying, I think it's good to talk about it. I think a lot of writers don't talk about it, out of even fear of talking about it, but or like to talk about it honestly. But I really I call it getting out of your way. First of all, if it's not happening, I don't stress it, and I do something else. Now, granted, if writing is your work, like you have a deadline, like you work for a newspaper or something, then I don't know what to tell you. But that's a whole different story. But I'm saying if you don't really have confines of time in a creative project, or if it's a fluid thing where you could be a week later or 3 days later, whatever. I'm saying when I start to make an album, I don't think that I have hundreds of years. I'm not Kate Bush, but at the same time, if it's not working, I move on. I do something else with my time, even if that's just messing around, like saying writing is now off the table and I'm just gonna sing, or I'm gonna play other things, or I'll rehearse something, although I hate rehearsing. But or, like I'm saying, I'll watch TV. I'll go for a walk. I will go back online and read articles or read blogs, or go back into, there are a lot of ways that you can be taking in information, which can always, I think all information that you take in helps you to be creative. But I don't freak out, like if I have a dry spell. And I think that's why they don't last, or that's why they don't like completely lock me up, because I'm not so afraid. I have faith, I guess, that the muse or what have you will come back. And I'm certainly, like my music or hate my music, I'm very prolific. I write a lot of music, so I'm saying if I can somehow tell myself that it's okay not to write and it's okay not to be inspired and still have that big of a body of work, I think that that's saying something for that. I think I've known a lot of writers who get so caught up in their head when they have a dry spell that they can't get back out of it, and they become their own worst enemy because they start like kind of psychosomatically killing their process. And for some people it does. Some people do work really well with confines. Like they like to say that I will write from 10 a.m. today until 6 p.m. or whatever. I'm not like that. If I'm into it, I'm into it, and I go for it and I see what happens, and I don't worry about it. So just like I'm saying, I don't even really pull myself out of those periods. I kind of get pulled from them. And I just trust it. I think you have to trust the process sometimes. I don't really understand it. I don't understand how I can create music. Like, I do understand the science of it, of course, and the theory. And I needed that information to be able to do what I do as quickly as I do it, and with the understanding that I have of it. But, and I think people who are artists understand this. It's like you can learn a lot of technique and a lot of theory, but then there's also that part of you that you don't just feel like you're a computer that's taking in something and then putting out, you know, fat numbers and whatever. I don't feel like I'm going chord, because I know how to do that stuff. It's second nature to me. I'm not thinking scientifically when I'm composing. I'm thinking it out of an emotional place or a creative place. And what I know technically only helps me to do that. But I've never been able to understand what is it about, I mean, not even just my own work, but composition in general, that you can somehow, you know, people have the ability to put music together and a melody line and make it as different, you know, as signature to yourself as you can. I mean, everything's kind of borrowed from everything else, of course, in Western music and all art forms. So, but I just think it's fascinating. Like, where does that come from? And like, honestly, it sounds really arrogant and egotistical, but there are lots of times where I'll listen to my music and I'll be like, I cannot believe that I did that. I don't know. I don't know. It sounds arrogant, but I think it's actually that's more of a humbling feeling for me. Like, it's just, it freaks me out, and then I get kind of excited, and then I get proud, and that's where the arrogant ego part comes in. But, you know, I get all like, wow, I'm proud of me, you know, like, wow, that's crazy. And also, I think as a creative person, if you really take it seriously, that, or not that you wouldn't, never mind. Disclaimer, if you think of being creative in that kind of capacity, there's something that's very awe-inspiring. Like, I feel very grateful that I was born with that ability, or that's something that came easily to me and that I was also passionate about. I know that I'm lucky for that, and I'm happy for it. And because I was so passionate about it, you know, I'm the kind of person, if I'm into something, I want to know as much as I possibly can about that thing. So I really dive in, and I want to do the work. I want to do a good job, you know. So I studied music incessantly, and music theory especially, because you gotta do your theory. We talked about this a little bit last week after the recording, so this time I'm on the record. If you want to get into music and it's never too late, learn your theory. Don't avoid music theory. It's important. Anyway, thank you again for that question. I actually, Naomi, thank you, because that was a good one, because I knew I could expound on that and take up some time. So, what else is going on? Yay, smiley face in the chat area. See, I'm explaining for those who watch later what's happening. Getting the hang of it. Inside Out, I gotta talk about that, the song From Here the City. If you guys watch the Everyday People Project, it's a 3-part interview series that I did. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and go online and look it up. Everyday People Project is what it's called. They're on Facebook, they're on YouTube. They go out and they find all these people and just people, you know, they ask them questions, interview them, and talk to them. So they asked me to be a part of it, and we did an interview that over an hour that he ended up splitting up into 3 10-minute segments at the end of the day. And then he really JD, it's his name, he really responded to my song Inside Out, because he feels that, and I hope this is true, that it's a very universal feeling that sometimes it's nice to have a conversation with someone that it's like a pep talk that kind of pulls you up and reminds you that that you could be doing more or whatever. So it, you know, just kind of a motivational moment. And so he really identified with that. And so he made a promo video. He asked if he could use the song, and I said sure, because I'm fine with stuff like that if it's not to make money. You know, like if people make fan videos and stuff like that. I'm not running on YouTube like shut it down, you know. Because, you know, whatever. If someone's making money, then that's a different story, and I have very strong views about copyright and stuff like that. Owning your work, I think, since I create the work, obviously it's mine, and I deserve, if someone else is making money off of it, I deserve a portion of that, please, at least. If nothing else, can I please have a portion of the money you're making off of my work? Anyway, this was not monetized, so it was fine. So I said sure. So he made this promo video where it was kind of like, you know, they were pulling little pieces from a lot of different interviews, and they used the song, and I really loved that. I thought the song actually did lend itself really well to them. There were a couple promos. So he asked if he could record other people singing the song, like lip syncing the song. And I said sure, that sounded good. So then I thought, well, why don't I record myself at home singing the song, and then we can actually make like a video. So we are. It'll be me, and then I think 6 or 7 other people. It will change and shift. And it will be an official video for Inside Out. So I'm excited because I haven't had a video in a really long time. A really long time. Since For Reasons Unexplained, really, technically. I have the live stuff, the DVDs and such, that you can order by visiting CaseyStratton.com. So I'm excited for that to be done, and I'll let you know. I'm supposed to see a rough cut this weekend. So we'll see when that's ready to go. So, okay. I'm gonna play for you now. Play for you. I will play for you. I may chicken out. Oh, yes. Okay, you know what? Naomi said in the chat window that For Reasons Unexplained was a weird-ass video. I agree, and I had really nothing to do with it, because outside of me, everything else in that video I had no idea was filmed. It was done behind my back. I came in to film an entirely different video that we filmed over 3 days, and all they kept were the scenes with me in them. And cut everything else out, went behind my back and filmed all that weird people with the masks on thing. I don't know. And I didn't know about it until it was released out on DVDs to all sorts of like record stores and clubs and stuff. It's called Promo Only, and they release these DVDs every month with all like the major label videos of the month. Like I think I was on there with like Enrique Iglesias or whatever. So yeah, I didn't know about it until it was already out, and I had a clause in my contract with Sony that said that they had to have my approval for all photo and video, but they didn't do it. Speaking of, I don't know. I'm going to do this cover. I've been obsessed with it all week, but I'm not too confident about it yet playing it piano vocal, but we're going to try it. I only rehearsed it once, so I'm going to hope for the best. But it's by Brandon Flowers. I'm into it. And the funny thing is, I got to do a little backstory. Someone had posted the video to Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes on YouTube, and I thought, I mean on Facebook, but it was a YouTube clip. And I thought, I haven't heard that song in a long time. So I hit play and I started listening to it. And then I tweeted about it, kind of a joke actually, kind of ripping on it. And then somebody said, oh, have you seen this? And it was a video of Brandon Flowers singing Betty Davis Eyes live in Los Angeles. And it was the only reason I even watched that was because it was recorded at the Troubadour where I've performed before. So I just was curious. So I watched that. And then for some reason, you know how the like recommended or like similar or whatever comes up. So then I saw the video for Crossfire, his single from his solo album, and I could see that it was Charlize Theron. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Because I'm so outside of pop culture, I never know anything that's going on. So I watched that. I loved the song. I bought the album. I'm into the album. So it's all, my new love of Brandon Flowers is all thanks to Kim Carnes. So I'm gonna give Crossfire a shot here, and we're gonna see what happens.
Still in the street outside.
Crossfire by Brandon Flowers, my new favorite song. Thank you. Tina says, love this. Naomi said, good. So thanks. Yay. So that's the podcast for this week. I will see you next week. And at 6:30, Thursday night at 6:30 Eastern Time. So if you got to Google that to know where you are, then that's good. If you come and jam with me live, then I will talk to you, do a little Q&A time afterward. Not even Q&A, just a little conversation in the chat window. So thanks a lot again for watching. Oh yeah, if you want to ask me a question, you can do so on Twitter or Facebook, wherever. I keep a record of them. Or you can send them to podcasts@CaseyStratton.com, which is the email address for this podcast. Now I'm going to be dark again. And then, yeah, what's this all say? I forget. Let me look first. Twitter.com/Casey Stratton, Facebook.com/Casey Stratton Music, my hand is shaking, and store.CaseyStratton.com is my Bandcamp store. When you buy stuff in the Bandcamp store, I get 90% of the money. When you buy it on iTunes, I get 50%, but that's okay. A sale is a sale, and I thank you for them, but just an FYI, people ask me all the time, so I thought I'd let you know. So thanks, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.